Chapter 19. You look thin, Ireland said, tilting her wine glass. You should get laid. Kate rolled her eyes, laughing even though it felt wrong. Is that your diagnosis, doctor? I'm serious, Ireland purred. You're too hung up on that ghost boy. You need distraction. Adventure. A man with fewer bandages. Kate's stomach twisted. I'm not hung up. Sure, Ireland smirked and pulled her close. Let's take a selfie or prove you're thriving. Before Kate could protest, Ireland had raised her phone and snapped a picture. Kate mid-laugh, the glass in her hand, makeup light but flattering. It wasn't until the next day that Kate saw the profile. Timer, a dating app. Her photo. Caption, single mom looking for something casual. No trauma, just tea. Kate's throat closed. She stormed into Ireland's messages. What the hell is this? Oh, relax. It's just for fun. Besides, he needs to see you've moved on. You sent it to him? Of course. Eye for an eye, darling. He played you. I'm helping you win. Kate didn't respond. She paced the kitchen, heart hammering. It was one thing to lie to herself, to the world, to her kids. It was another thing entirely to become someone else's revenge scheme. Kate stared at her phone, thumbs hovering over the screen as the familiar ache rose in her throat. I don't need your help. I don't care what he thinks. I love being single. I love my life. Please stop involving me. She hit send. Then she whispered the lie to herself again. Slower this time, as if saying it gently might make it true. I don't care what he thinks. I love being single. I love my life. Her voice caught on the last word, life, as if she had one. The irony didn't escape her. She was saying it to a dim kitchen, her feet cold against the tile, a glass of untouched wine in one hand and River's music playing softly in the background from her laptop. It was always there. Him, a ghost looping through her thoughts, a melody she couldn't silence. She told herself it would be the last message to Ireland. But she knew better. She knew the pattern, the way Ireland knew how to bait her just enough to keep her orbiting anger and shame. The way she let her guard down too often, convinced Ireland was just trying to help, convinced maybe the manipulation came from some twisted version of love. Kate placed her phone face down, like that could stop her from checking it. Then quietly she opened River's account. Mummy, look, Finn shouted from the garden. His face lit up with wonder as he pointed toward the fence. A butterfly, pale orange with flecks of white, danced in the air between the wildflowers they had planted just weeks ago. Is that one of ours? Liam asked, brushing his curls out of his eyes as he stood beside his brother. Kate smiled and crouched between them, tugging them both into a gentle embrace. Could be, she said. Maybe it came back to say hello. Finn scrunched his nose. Like River said they would? Her chest tightened. Yeah, she whispered. Just like River said. The boys didn't catch the shift in her tone. They were too busy chasing the butterfly across the grass, shrieking with laughter, their legs moving with wild, joyful abandon. Kate stood there watching them, arms wrapped around herself, letting the sun soak into her skin like it could somehow press back the chill inside her. She had promised herself she would stay here, at this moment, in this garden, with them. But Adam's voice returned to her, clear as if he were standing behind her. You think you can only love someone who doesn't need you? She didn't know what to say. She still didn't. Because the truth was, River had needed her, openly, desperately. He didn't try to hide it behind pride or games. He had given himself completely and without armor. And it terrified her. What if she dropped him? What if her hands weren't strong enough to hold something so delicate, so deeply wounded? What if she broke him worse? That night, after the boys were asleep, sprawled in tangled sheets smelling of grass and sunshine, Kate sat on the bathroom floor, hugging her knees. I was so scared, she whispered to herself. Still am. She thought of the way River had looked at her in Berlin, like she was light itself. And then she thought of how she'd responded, how she'd pulled away, demanded answers. Asked him why he always had to be so much. It's like you're always bleeding on the floor, she had said. And you expect me to clean it up. The words came back now, and they tasted like rust. Had she mistaken his vulnerability for a burden? Had she confused being loved openly with being needed too much? She remembered Adam's quiet certainty. Maybe you should ask yourself why it was easier to push him away than to say, sorry. She buried her face in her arms and cried silently, because the answer wasn't noble. It wasn't about protecting herself or protecting him. It was about fear and cowardice and the desperate need to feel in control when everything else, River's love, her past, her pain, felt too big to name. It started with a video, not one she searched for. It found her, tucked between algorithmic noise and forgotten tabs. A short clip from an indie interview series, The Velvet Sessions. She nearly scrolled past it until she saw the name, The Velvet Mask opens up about heartbreak, anonymity, and the song that saved him. Her thumb froze. The thumbnail was low light. River, masked as always, hunched over in an oversized sweater, one ringed hand clutching the mic. You couldn't see his face, not really. But she knew those hands. Even under soft stage lighting, she could see the scar slicing up toward the hitch in his left brow. The way he curled the mic cord around his fingers when he was nervous. The little fidget he did, shoulders forward, head tilted, like he was still trying to disappear even while being seen. And the desperate need to feel in control when everything else, River's love, her past, her pain, felt too big to name. It started with a video, not one she searched for. It found her, tucked between algorithmic noise and forgotten tabs. A short clip from an indie interview series, The Velvet Sessions. She nearly scrolled past it until she saw the name. The Velvet Mask opens up about heartbreak, anonymity, and the song that saved him. Her thumb froze. The thumbnail was low light. River, masked as always, hunched over in an oversized sweater, one ringed hand clutching the mic. You couldn't see his face, not really, but she knew those hands. Even under soft stage lighting, she could see the scar slicing up toward the hitch in his left brow. The way he curled the mic cord around his fingers when he was nervous, the little fidget he did, shoulders forward, head tilted, like he was still trying to disappear even while being seen. Kate clicked. The interviewer leaned in. There's a moment in your song, Cinders and Sky. You sing about a train station, a cigarette, someone with green eyes. Can you talk about what that night meant to you? River was quiet for a long time, long enough Kate wondered if the audio had been cut. Then he spoke, voice low, almost fragile. I was lost that night in every way. I didn't think I was coming back from it, but someone saw me. Someone I'd known a long time ago, not romantically, not then, but she saw me when I was invisible to everyone else. She didn't do anything dramatic, just stood in front of me and said my name like it still meant something, like I still meant something. The interviewer nodded. And you've never forgotten her? River let out a dry laugh. No. I think I've spent every song since trying to say thank you, or I'm sorry, or maybe both. Kate stared at the screen. She remembered that night, the smell of metal and dust and smoke. How he tried to share a cigarette but smoked it backwards. How the light in his eyes didn't quite reach the rest of him. How his voice trembled when he lied and said he was just out for a walk. She hadn't realized not then what kind of edge he'd been standing on. And she'd never thought about how it must have felt when she walked away again. Later, she sat on the floor of her bedroom, a half-folded basket of laundry at her side, and stared at a worn leather-bound book. It had once belonged to the River. He left it in her flat in Berlin, tucked behind a lamp, probably on purpose. She hadn't opened it until months after he left, and by then she was already dating Jamie, the dependable type, steady hands, good job, clean kitchen, no rough edges. She found River's number written on the inside flap in a rushed scrawl that looked like it had been scratched mid-panic. If you want to find me, 789 to 2189. I'll answer, love your River, she didn't call. She stared at it until the ink blurred from her tears. Then she closed the book and placed it in a drawer, where it stayed hidden behind passports and instruction manuals for years. River always smelled like cotton caught in sunlight. It wasn't cologne, not something artificial, just him. Like laundry drying in the warm winds, safe and human and familiar. And his hands, they were always soft, even though tiny cuts from guitar strings lined the sides of his fingers. She used to tease him about how delicate they looked for someone who played like that. He'd just smile and say, I bleed for my music. Small price. Now, in the quiet of her room, she realized how much she missed those hands, not just holding her, but fidgeting, tuning, reaching for her absent-mindedly while he read. And it hit her. She'd never once said, I love you in Berlin. Not once. She had been so afraid of the moment becoming real, of losing the ability to choose once she gave him that truth. She thought he'd fight harder when she said she wasn't ready, that he'd push back. Instead, he left. Kate's mother had once told her that love was about choosing peace over passion. Her father had nodded like that was a gospel truth. But Kate, even as a child, had thought, what peace? Their house had always been quiet, not the soft kind, the brittle tiptoe kind, a stillness that stretched through dinners and weekends, broken only by the scrape of a fork or the static hum of the news on TV. They weren't cruel. There were no slammed doors, no shouting matches, but there were no glances, no reaching hands, no soft laughter behind closed doors. They were two people coexisting in the same space, parallel, predictable. That kind of quiet scared Kate more than anything, because it didn't just signal absence, it screamed of resignation. She was 28 when she first caught her own reflection in that same silence. Jamie had been washing dishes. She was folding laundry. The boys were napping. It was peaceful, she supposed. But as she walked past the hallway mirror, she saw her face, dull, unfocused. She looked like her mother. It hit her like cold water. She was living the same story. Jamie never hurt her. He paid bills on time, kissed her cheek, showed up to school plays, but he never looked at her like River had in Berlin, like she was something holy, like she was something ruinous if left. Kate had always craved control. It made her feel safe. Her life had been built on carefully stacked to-do lists, color-coded calendars, clean sinks, and emergency plans. She was the girl who held it all together, who never cried in front of the kids, who never asked for help. River had threatened that system the way wildfire threatens a field of grain. With him, her emotions unraveled too quickly. She laughed too loud, felt too much, said things she didn't mean, and meant things she didn't know how to say. She had told herself he was too much, but the truth was, she was afraid of becoming someone she couldn't control, because she'd seen what love without passion looked like. But she didn't know if she could survive love that burned. The night she told Jamie she wanted a divorce, she had been folding towels. "I don't think I'm in this anymore," she said quietly. He turned off the tap. "Are you seeing someone?" She shook her head. "No, I just don't feel anything." Jamie didn't fight her, didn't cry. He just nodded and said, "Okay." And that was somehow the worst part. It was peaceful, but not the kind she wanted. Back in the present, Kate opened the drawer. The leather-bound book still sat there, worn, familiar, holding pieces of a love she hadn't been brave enough to claim. She flipped through it, touching his scrawled lyrics, half-thoughts, questions left unanswered. Then, her fingers found the note again. She pressed the page to her chest. She didn't cry. She just sat there, still and silent, letting the memories bloom and wilt like ghost flowers. It was a strange thing, how the smallest question from a child could reopen every wound you thought had scarred over. "Will River come back before Christmas?" Finn asked, tugging at the hem of her jumper while she stood washing dishes. "He said he'd help us with the lights." Kate didn't answer right away, because how do you explain to a 6-year-old that sometimes people go missing even when they're still alive? That sometimes love doesn't leave, but it disappears. She swallowed and gave the safest lie she could. "I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe." Finn seemed satisfied, running back outside to rejoin Liam in the garden. But the question sat heavy in her lungs, and with it came everything else. The memory of Berlin was a cathedral she didn't enter often. But tonight, she walked into it, barefoot, unguarded. She remembered how River's fingers had trembled when they first touched her skin, reverent, unsure, like he didn't believe he was allowed to have her, how his lips had hovered over hers like a prayer. She had pulled him into her with the quiet desperation of someone who needed to feel wanted, even if only for one night. But it hadn't been casual, not really. It was the first time she had let someone look at her like that, not with hunger, with grief, as if losing her was already written into the stars. The morning after, she had dressed in silence. River had woken up before her, sat with his guitar bare-chested, legs crossed on the bed, his back to her, picking at a new melody like he already knew she wouldn't stay. When he turned, his face was soft, hopeful. He'd started to say something, and she had cut him off. "I can't do this," she said. His smile faltered. "What? I can't be what you want, River. This was a mistake." He didn't fight her. He just nodded. And that hurt more than if he'd yelled, because she had expected him to try. After the train station, that wild night where she found him and pulled him out of the dark, they had been inseparable for days. Late night walks, secret coffees, shared headphones, inside jokes nobody else understood, the kind of closeness that made even silence feel intimate. And then, one evening, he told her he was leaving for university in the States. She remembered how her heart cracked at the words, how she smiled and said, "That's amazing," even while she felt something vital being carved out of her. She didn't cry then, not in front of him. But the night he left, she locked herself in the bathroom and sobbed until her ribs ached. They tried to stay in touch. Letters, emails. One terrible Skype call where they both pretended to be fine. Then it faded. Years passed like water over glass. Back in her bedroom now, the drawer still open, Kate pulled out a notepad. Not her phone, not the digital world. She needed paper, ink, something real. She hesitated, then wrote, "River, I don't know if I'll send this. I don't even know if I should. But I can't keep these words inside anymore. There's so much I never said, so much I never let myself feel. I was scared how much I loved you. I think I always was. When you left for the US, I told myself I had to let you go, that it was better for both of us. But I lied. I mourned you like you died. And then, years later, you were just standing there. Berlin. Like no time had passed at all. I let you into my body, but not my heart. I was selfish. I needed you, but I couldn't admit it. And when you left again, I blamed you. But maybe I'm the one who ran first. She stopped there, hands trembling. Tears slipped silently down her cheeks. She wasn't ready to send it. Not yet, but she had finally started. I just want him to stop messaging me, Kate muttered, the phone pressed between her shoulder and ear as she paced the edge of her kitchen. It's every other day, a song lyric, a memory, a picture of a bloody foxglove with some cryptic caption. God, Ireland groaned dramatically. He's worse than your houseplants. Needier. Kate didn't laugh. I'm serious, she said. It's like he doesn't understand that I can't do this right now. I have the boys. I have work. And he just keeps pouring himself out like I'm still capable of holding it. There was a long pause. Then Ireland said, too casually, want me to tell him to stop? Kate froze at the sink, sponge in hand. No, she said, but it didn't sound convincing. I mean, it's what he wants, isn't it? Ireland continued. A little drama, a tragic muse. Maybe this will finally push him into making an actual album, not just TikTok grief bait. Ireland. But Ireland had already moved on to some story about a man she'd ghosted last month. Kate stopped listening. Her chest felt tight, and not from the wine. The truth was, she hadn't really wanted him to stop. She just hadn't wanted to feel so much when he spoke. The messages stopped 2 days later. Not gradually, not with a fade out, just silence. No morning photos, no links to old Velvet Mask covers, no saw this, thought of you. It should have felt like relief, but it felt like a door slamming shut. Kate stared at her inbox more times than she admitted, checked her texts like they might magically refill. But nothing came. She didn't message Ireland, not at first, until she saw Rivers' latest video. He sat alone on a bar stool in a dim-lit room, a soft spotlight above him. Blurred edges, unfiltered grief in his voice. He didn't sing the lyrics he'd written. He choked them out. Even his guitar sounded different, like it was hurting with him. The caption read, If I disappear again, pretend you never knew me. Kate sat in silence long after the video ended. And then the comments came. Anyone else notice his songs got way darker lately? Velvet Mask breakup confirmed? I swear he's actually crying in this one. Someone check on him for his eyes aren't hidden as well in this video and he looks dead behind them. Is he okay? Kate closed the app. Her throat burned. Mom? Liam called from the living room. Kate wiped her eyes quickly. Yeah, sweetheart. Is River on the telly? She blinked and walked in. Sure enough, one of River's older Velvet Mask clips was playing on YouTube. Finn, sitting on the floor with a juice box, looked up. That's him, right? You said that was your friend. Kate's voice was barely a whisper. Yeah, why doesn't he come back? Liam asked. Kate knelt beside them. Sometimes grown-ups get really sad, she said carefully, and they need time to figure out how to feel better. Finn frowned. But we could help. Kate bit her lip. You did, she whispered. You already did. The cottage was silent except for the gentle rattle of wind against the old windows. River sat curled in the corner of the sofa, his hoodie drawn up, the strings tugged between his teeth. The fire had burned low hours ago, but he hadn't moved to feed it. His phone sat in his lap, screen dark as if it too had finally given up. 3 weeks. 3 weeks since Kate last replied. 3 weeks of sending messages into the void. Soft ones, desperate ones, careful ones. He hadn't begged, but he had tried. I didn't mean to hurt you. I miss how you talk about this guy. Please tell me what you need. Nothing, not even a read receipt. River hated himself for it, the clench of hope every time his screen lit up. He'd memorized the shape of her notification preview, Kate, in bold letters, but it never came. His chest ached with it, not in the surgical way. This was older, deeper, like a string pulled too tight over years. He threw the phone against the cushions, not hard, just far enough away that it couldn't hurt him anymore. Dana came around noon the next day. She brought soup and an energy drink and a look that said she knew the truth without him saying it. You're losing weight again, she said gently, setting the bag down. When was the last time you actually ate? River shrugged from his position on the floor, back against the wall near the window. Ate a lyric. Dana rolled her eyes. Not funny. I'm not joking. She sat cross-legged in front of him. Have you spoken to Kate? He flinched like she'd slapped him. She hasn't replied. Dana was quiet, too quiet. She will, River added quickly. She's just Overwhelmed, I was pushing. I just wanted to know I care. Dana didn't speak for long. Then, softly, River, you can't keep throwing yourself at a door that isn't opening. He blinked. I mean it, she said. You've told her how you feel. You've bled for her in words and songs and silence. But you can't make someone show up for you. He looked away. She has to do her own healing. You can't do it for her. And you sure as hell can't wait here forever, hoping your love will fix both of you. River closed his eyes. Dana's voice was quiet. You deserve someone who chooses you, who meets you in the middle, not someone you have to keep rescuing with your heart. That night, he didn't message Kate. Instead, he opened his software and recorded 3 tracks in a row, raw, unpolished, howling with something unspeakable. He layered strings over whispers, wove silence into the beat like it was another instrument. He wasn't River anymore. He was the Velvet Mask, and he stopped holding back. A week later, a message popped up on a private burner account. Ireland, she wants you to stop, you know. You're exhausting her. You're ruining her healing. She talks about you like a mistake. River stared at the screen. No profile picture, but he knew it was her. He didn't reply. He just turned off notifications, turned off comments, and turned off the River part of himself altogether. The music changed. Fans noticed. The Velvet Mask videos were colder, sharper, more detached. The grief was still there, but cleaner, less like a cry and more like an exorcism. He almost exposed himself twice. Once when he forgot to blur his arm and the surgical scar peeked out beneath a rolled sleeve. Another time when a livestream filter glitched, showing too much of his jaw, too much of him. Comments flooded in. Wait, is this really TVM? His face looks familiar. Why does he look like that guy from... He deleted the footage within an hour. Still, the screenshots were there. And the trolls came. One of them called him a fraud. Another sent him a photoshopped image of Kate holding hands with a stranger. He blocked account after account, but he couldn't block the ache. He didn't sleep much anymore. 3, maybe 4 hours a night, if you could call it sleep. Mostly he drifted in and out of consciousness with his laptop still glowing, guitar cables curled across the floor like veins. Dreams bled into waking life. Sometimes he'd see Vera in the doorway. Sometimes he thought he heard Kate's laugh through the walls. But when he opened his eyes, the house was always silent, cold, like it had been waiting for him to finally realize he was alone. He played sold-out shows now, not arenas, not yet, but crowded basements, art spaces, old theaters that pulsed with neon and sweat and cigarette breath. People screamed for him. They sang every word. They called him a genius. They whispered rumors about who he was, but nobody saw him. That was the point. He wore a different mask every time now, visually stunning, handcrafted. Some stitched with silver thread, others cracked and ghostly. One was made of mirror shards, each piece showing someone else's reflection. He barely spoke on stage, sometimes not at all. But the moment he touched a guitar, the room changed. It was the only place he still felt real. Dana noticed. She came to a show unannounced, slipped in through the back wearing black on black, arms folded as she watched him from behind the sound booth. He didn't see her at first, but after the final song, he glanced up toward the side stairs, and her eyes met his like a verdict. Backstage, she cornered him before he could vanish into another cloud of makeup wipes and muscle aches. You're disappearing, she said simply, and not in a good way. He didn't argue, just sat on the concrete floor, sweat cooling against his spine. Dana crouched beside him, her tone quieter now. You haven't called in 2 weeks. I know what that means. River looked at his hands. They were shaking, whether from adrenaline or withdrawal or grief. Who could say anymore? I can't feel anything unless I'm up there, he admitted. And even then, it's like watching it happen from underwater. She nodded, slow. What about her? He hesitated. His jaw twitched. She's gone, he whispered. Even when she was still here, I think she'd already left. Dana didn't sugarcoat it. And you stopped writing to her? A pause. River pulled his hoodie tighter around himself. I write. I just don't send. What's the point? River stood in the cramped corner of the floral shop, staring down at a small bouquet of white anemones and wild violets, Kate's favorite. He remembered her telling him once, years ago, that they reminded her of quiet places and childhood secrets. Like something you'd find growing by a forgotten garden wall, she said. He paid in cash, had them wrapped in pale paper, a handwritten note folded inside. I don't know what I can fix, but I love you. Always. No name. She'd know anyway. They promised to deliver quickly. The next morning, his phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. A picture, no words. The bouquet unmistakable, lying in a trash bin. Still wrapped, crushed, dirty. 10 seconds later, another image. Kate, her face blank, tossing the flowers in midair outside what looked like a cafe parking lot. In the corner of the frame, blurred but unmistakable, Ireland's red nails holding the phone. Then came the text. Ireland, still think this is love? She says you're obsessed, broken, creeping back in like mold. This isn't romantic. It's pathetic. River's hands trembled, the phone screen going blurry. For a second, he forgot to breathe. He could almost hear Kate's voice behind those images, see the flicker of disdain or maybe heartbreak on her face. Was that really how she saw him now? He typed and deleted a dozen responses. In the end, he didn't send anything. He simply sat in the silence, phone clutched to his chest, and whispered to no one, I just wanted you to feel loved. Later, he scrolled through his drafts, over 70 unsent messages. Some were a single line, do you think of me at night? Others were pages long, full of thoughts too jagged to speak aloud. He hovered over the send button more than once, but her silence had become a ritual now, sacred in its own kind of cruelty. He didn't want to give her another reason to pity him. Instead, he reopened his journal. This time, he didn't even write lyrics. He just screamed into layers of distortion, screamed into synths and bass drops and cello crescendos that cracked like bones under pressure. He sampled his own breath, chopped and glitched until it sounded inhuman. He called the track Digital Grave. A week later, he got another message. Different accounts, same voice. You really think this music is helping her? You think she doesn't see the songs? She sees. She laughs. You're embarrassing. This time, River didn't freeze. He laughed, low, sharp, bitter. Because maybe she did see. Maybe Kate was laughing. Or maybe Ireland just needed him to believe that. Maybe that was the only way she could still hurt him, by hollowing out the one thing he still believed in, that what he and Kate had was real. He didn't reply. Again. He just uploaded the track. No title, no context. It trended within a day. Fans called it a masterpiece. A sonic breakdown, a cry for help turned to art. But to River, it was none of those things. It was just the truth. Ugly, wordless, unapologetic. A day later, a fan account posted a side-by-side image. Left, a blurry still of River in medical school, pulled from a now-defunct YouTube interview. On the right, a glitch frame from the Velvet Masks live stream 2 weeks ago. Tell me this isn't the same guy. The post exploded, Reddit threads spun theories, TikTok remixes layered his music over old academic clips. The podcast called it The Unraveling of a Masked Oracle. He wanted to deny it, to pull the mask tighter, bury himself in the myth. But the internet was fast, too fast, and once something was seen, it could never be unseen. Still, he said nothing. He posted another song the next night. This one was called Mute God. The lyrics were barely audible, almost whispered, buried under static and reverse piano notes. But if you listened closely, right near the end, you could make out one line, I gave you everything, even the pieces I needed to stay alive.